Hey everyone, Swanda here, Resonant Essentials. Thank you for showing up today to my talk. Welcome to the Unconditional Love, having the power to move our energy or move energy, and ego has the power to collapse us. And I can tell you that seems like a real mouthful to me even. It really is. But what I can tell you is it's a powerful statement. I have been doing this work for over 40 years, and I can tell you that the hardest thing that we have to do is to run out there in life and move, shift, change our dynamics, our energy, so that we power up to a higher state of consciousness. And that's what we're here for. So I've done videos on not taking it personal, on negative energy versus positive, ego and love. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about and really kind of drill home today, because I think the world is in a state of flux. Oops. I did not turn the ringer off. I apologize, folks. Let's do that right now. Because, I'm always so well coordinated. So the world we have the entire world in a state of flux. And if we can't figure out how to change that energy, then we're going to be stuck in this duality, this 3D consciousness for so long. Now, there are a lot of people out here that have higher states of consciousness, higher than mine. I have no problem admitting that I am not the best. But I am one that has worked at waking up. And I've done this for a long time because it was important to me. Having money, having fancy cars, those are all nice if you have them, but they're not necessary. That's part of the ego. The ego says, let's go bankrupt to have this house and $30,000 worth of clothes in the closet, and let's go out there and create all this chaos. Hey, Harold, how's it going? I'm glad you joined. I'm glad you found me today. So it's well and fine that we want to have things, but things don't warm our heart. Things don't shift consciousness of humankind. So, we have crossed the time, the linear time, and it's time that we start taking. I'm so glad. That's great. You should be doing good. You're always so happy. We should all be more like Harold. But it's time that we take our energy into our own power. And one of the things that I kind of got in trouble with was my business coach this week told me, honey, you don't pay me to be nice to you. You pay me to tell you the truth. When are you going to stop putting everybody else out front? And when are you going to start allowing yourself to be seen? And that kind of hit hard. I was like, wow, am I that invisible? And am I that much of a recluse, an introvert? A lot of us came in like that because when you're very psychic, when you're dealing with the other side, when you're doing energy work and healing and all of these things, we learned it often through being triggered by exceptionally entertaining parents and siblings and cousins and aunts and uncles. I mean, my family puts the word fun back in dysfunction, and they do it so well. I used to get really angry. I carried a lot of pain from that. And what I realize now is, hey, you know what? That made me grow. That made me be better about who I was. And she told me, she says, quit acquiescing to others. My business coach called it, nailed it. I acquiesce to others because it's not that I don't know better. I do know how to do things, and I can get the job done. I mean, heck, look where I'm at Resonant Essentials. Beautiful center with beautiful people coming in. I can build, but I'm a no conflict kind of person. I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's something in it that they need to learn. So I stepped back a little and I let other people come out front. And she said, my job this week was to let people know who I am. So I'm going to tell you who I am. In numerology, my life path is a 22. Now, I can tell you the funny thing about numerology is you will always find an answer in numerology. The center adds up to an 11. So the address here at the center, 3107 is 11. And suites 33 and 34 add up to 13, which is the Christ consciousness. It's the 12 chakras and then the higher self. It's the 12 disciples and then Jesus or the Christ consciousness. It is the 12 astrological signs. It is a very powerful movement of consciousness. So, the center is a 13 and I'm a 22. So our numbers, man, we can rock this. And we do. My life expression is a 1. Okay, so let me go back. A 22 is basically listed as doers, leaders, visionary leaders, and they're often recognized as sages by the end of their life. Well, one can only hope that I get to sage status. If I can get there, maybe I'll ascend into higher consciousness a little bit quicker than having to come back to this hot mess, because I don't want to do it. But my life expression is a 1. So what that means that is in this life, they list the characteristics as a courageous, natural-born leader and not afraid to make things happen. Well, I'm not. I have failed more times than I have succeeded, and I'm okay with that because, every failure was entertaining, it was heartbreaking, it was nerve-wracking, but it taught me something. And my soul urge is a 9, which is the highest expression in order to connect to the mystical ways with others. I have a soul that must be fed by higher consciousness. I love learning. I will sit in a class if I find my instructor worthy to exchange ideas with, to listen to. I will sit in the class. If it's somebody who thinks that they're way up here and they're charging $1,000 to tell me how really incredibly awesome that their information is, and I've learned it like 40 years ago, then I'm probably not too worried about learning a lot from them, but I will still sit in the class respectfully just in case, because you never know when somebody's going to say something powerful. I won't pay $1,000 for a class though, unless I really am impressed that this is worth my time and my spiritual understanding. The reason I opened Resonant Essentials is I wanted a place, my spirit team guided me here. We wanted a place to be a beacon of light for those wishing to reach higher consciousness to come and work from. It does cost money to feed the center. The rent is not cheap. It is grueling in the aspect of pandemics and people living in fear of coming in and learning and taking classes. And they tell themselves, I can't afford. So that impacts me. So I'm telling you now, I'm looking for those people that say, hey, I want that higher consciousness. I will make sure that the money falls in my lap so that I can take the classes to take me to higher awareness. I have studied and trained since I was 14, and I'll be 63 this year. So I studied and trained to learn what I know, not what others believe, but what I know from my truth and my ability. And a lot of times when I have stepped back and let others be seen, I've learned what it is when ego takes you over. So I've learned not to engage my ego as often as I might have had I not sat back and watched and listened and been an observer. So never mistake someone who questions or someone who is silent for spiritual inferiority. This is the problem that we have. We automatically assume, oh, well, they haven't been in this as long as me. When I first came back to Albuquerque, people didn't understand who I was because they didn't see me in their crowds, in their group, in their clique. And a lot of the reason is because I had other things that I was doing. I still did my own metaphysical thing, but I wasn't concerned with running around to do the things that they were doing. And it's not because I felt that I was superior to that. It's just really I did not have time. So we have to remember we can't automatically assume because we don't see them, they weren't there first, that they don't know, because even a homeless man can have more knowledge, have higher metaphysical teachings within that they are sharing in their area than the most highly acclaimed person. How silly it was. Somebody told me that, I don't remember who it was, but they said, I'll never watch this person again because this was a real well-known self-help guru that was out there speaking. And they overheard him say some pretty rotten things. And I laugh because, we're all out there saying really rotten things. But we expect the people who are on stage to know better because they must be more enlightened than us because they're on stage. And it's really kind of silly because just because we're on a platform does not mean that we know everything. We're all still in the business of working. So don't also mistake someone who gives you unconditional love and support for weakness. Don't make that mistake. Be the person that gives the unconditional love and support, but don't let yourself be abused. See, there's a whole world of opinions out there, and those opinions create judgments, and those judgments come from our place of fear. So we tell men, you have to be really strong and you have to go out there and work, and you women need to sit down and you need to behave yourself and you need to clean the house. So women are like, hey, I'm fine just cleaning house. You go ahead. You go out there with all that masculine energy and you be the hunter. Well, you have to remember that when we split, when male and female, the spirit, the true self that we are, when we split, the masculine energy became positive energy. This doesn't mean that they're happier or funnier or, more fun to be around, and that they are more positive. It means that their energy goes outward, and the woman is negative energy. It comes inward. So the woman is more of a nurturer, and she has that level of awareness. Yes, you are absolutely right. Hundreds of years of influence have we're talking actually thousands of years of influence, because these aren't our first lives and our first civilizations. This is what we're remembering right now is what has been traceable at this time, what we can date back to a recorded history. So when we understand that the man has been the hunter-gatherer because his energy goes out, doesn't mean that he can't be a nurturer. And it doesn't mean that the woman can't go out and throw a sword. There's many female warriors in many civilizations, in many cultures. We just acquiesce now out of fear. They won't love us enough if we're not masculine enough. Well, does somebody need to slap you down to be masculine? Because that's really not a spiritual way of being. And so we struggle with this in our interpersonal relationships with our friends, our family, our lovers. It's, we are our strongest when we love purely and divinely. That is when we are our strongest. More importantly, we are stronger still, even more so when someone loves us purely and divinely. And it doesn't have to be a lover. It can be a friend, it can be a neighbor, it can be a teacher. We get our strength from love. We don't get our strength from combating energy. We don't get our strength from conflict. That does not show strength. I told you, I think last week, that the true democracy was the Iroquois nation. They were the blueprint for the American Declaration of Independence, and their teachings were. But people don't know that because we've kind of erased history to suit the control that cultures have chosen to hold over another culture. I'm not going to get into a racial war here, but you have to understand that you, all of us, were every color. We were black, white, red, yellow, brown. We have been gay, we have been straight, we have been men, we've been women, we have been raped and pillaged, and we've done our share of raping and pillaging. And that experience, all those experiences have brought us to this moment that we're in right this moment. And in this moment right now, I am expressing myself as Michelle Swanda, self-proclaimed wicked and nice diva, because sometimes I can get it kind of nasty. I can say, hey, that's not okay. And people get offended by that. And I'm okay with that, because when we go through that level of what we consider, poor me, I'm not going to let you be poor me. I'm going to say, hey, you're better than that. Snap out of it. We all are better than that. And so we have to be strong enough so that when someone speaks of being attacked constantly or put down constantly, or their world is in chaos constantly, we have to love them enough to walk away. And do you know why we have to love them enough to walk away? Because they're not going to learn. They're not going to learn to see where they're broken. We have to see where we're broken in order to heal it. And we can't see where we're broken until we fall down on our face. We like to pat ourselves on the back and go, I did really good in that past relationship. I was the good one. They cheated. They lied. They were nasty. We're real good about that. And that's true. It really is. The person that brought me the most healing was the person who was the most broken. And do you know why? We drew each other to each other in order to heal. So when you have people in that world that haven't looked at why they're broken, it's okay to walk away. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to regret being around them. You don't have to belittle them. You just have to smile and say, peace, namaste, my heart to yours. I love the beautiful being in you, and I hope you see the beautiful being in me. Awareness is definitely the key. You were right, Harold. It's being aware of your surroundings. It's like walking out. Somebody told me, well, I would never go to the grocery store at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I'm not awake at 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, I have gone to the grocery store at 4 o'clock in the morning because I don't have a fear of somebody mugging me. But at 4 o'clock in the morning, I have things I want to do the rest of the day. And it's easier for me to get up because I'm already up at 3. So, jump in the shower, throw some clothes on, and go to the grocery store and come home. It's a done deal. And I can get to my other things. But I am aware of my surroundings, but I'm also aware of the energy that I carry. My energy says, I am a bright light. If you're not radiating at the same frequency as me, you can't see me. You won't touch me, because that's my knowing. My knowing is that's not on my table to experience. At one time, sure. I mean, I had to learn somewhere. I came from a I told you, a family of fun and dysfunction people. But now when this world is in such flux, it is really the time to stand strong. And we need to stand with light. We can't let this world go into chaos. The only way that we can do it, when we walk away from somebody, we have to recognize that they are going to either grow in their light, that maybe they've learned their lesson from what you brought to them, or not. They'll bring somebody else in to show them what you tried to show them. You get to thank them for showing you where you were so obviously broken and healed from that. So thank you. And then you can love them. You don't have to necessarily like walk away like I'll never speak to you again, but you don't have to stick around for the energy clash. You can just be in your higher state of consciousness and awareness and just know the inner knowings and go from there. It's up to them to find the light for themselves. And it's also up to them to bring that light to the table. So if they like your light, let's say, you're walking away from somebody you perceive is broken, and you're broken, and you healed your broken, and they're still struggling. That doesn't mean that you have to ignore them, right? Said that. But it means that, maybe they will catch up with you. But if you're over there trying to make excuse after excuse after excuse as to why their life is so miserable, and you, poor me, poor you, I'm so sorry these things happened to you, it's so terrible, then you're not letting them see the light. You're not letting them get strong in their light. My sister, I have to say, she was marriage number 4. And she was really pissed. She asked me, this was 20 years ago. She says, is it me? Is it me? I said, yeah, it is. And she was so mad at me. She was screaming mad. How dare you say that to me? He did this, he did that. I said, but you keep picking them. And they're all alike, every one of them, and they keep getting worse. So you keep picking one that gets worse each time. When do you recognize what's broken in you to stop picking that type? I mean, hell, we're human. We pick wrong, and then we go, oops, and that's okay. It's really okay, because if you learn from it, then it was a lesson worth experiencing. But you don't have to have this going on in your life as your lessons. You can have it like this. It's just little waves in your river of life. I have to have the crash and burn and tsunami and oh my God. So, it is time that we drop our energy, because our world is facing a reality check. And the conversation goes something like this. Do you want to be in higher consciousness? Do you want to ascend your awareness? Do you want to go into the 4th and 5th dimension? Not just say you're going to the 4th and 5th dimension, because I will tell you, you cannot base the true measure of someone else in consciousness. I have heard people say, I'm in the 5th dimension, and yet I'm watching them do things that are pretty unethical so that they can appear to be in the 5th dimension. So I can't judge that. To me, that's not 5th dimension material. Okay? I'm saying that you have to recognize your ability to go to the 4th and 5th dimension. We have to let go of fear. Now, I know that that's really hard. And it's really hard if we're have any graciousness that we live in. We have to recognize that there's a real war going on for people of color. We thought that was all situated in the 60s, didn't we? Yeah. Affirmative action. That took care of everything, didn't it? I don't think so. I do not think so. Okay. We also thought we took care of the women's movement, didn't we? Well, Texas proved us wrong. And women didn't, it's all about the duality. It's about getting caught up in those programs. And as long as we allow them to put us in those pockets where we can't have control over our body, or where that our light is squashed because we're a person of color, we have to shift that. No, it didn't. It really didn't. But we're working on it, Harold, I promise you. A lot of people are pulling that light in. But we have to quit having judgments, because judgments actually come from opinions. And those opinions are predicated on our fear. So that's this big circle. Oh my God, I am so afraid I'm not going to have enough money. I'm a woman and I don't get paid as much as a man, even though I do twice as much at work that they do, and I have just as good as education as they do. I'm not going to get paid as much. So I'm going to be hurting for money. So I've got to stay with my abusive man so that I can have the rent paid. Instead of saying, we're out, done, no. And owning that power and knowing the trust of universal love and power to empower that step out the door. We can't undo what's been done to cultures, to genders, to identities. We can't undo it. Or can we? Because if you truly understand metaphysics, if you truly understand the science that we are having every now, my moment now is now, and I'm also having another life that has the same spiritual now as this now. Because when we're in spirit, when we're out of the earth plane, we are not experiencing linear time. So there's thousands of me on earth having many levels of experience that I can draw from. And I can pull that energy to me, and I can empower myself to undo the damage within me. And as I heal me, that shifts the dynamic for every person I was and ever will be on a linear timeline, because it's all me now. And I hope I'm making sense. Tell me if I'm making sense, guys. Because it's really important that we understand that the moments that we think were then are the moments that are actually a now thing. So what happened in the 60s is happening now. We just have a different concept. Our vibration is slower, so we're progressing in a consciousness of day to day, because that's what the third dimension is about. And that's how they keep us in fear. And that's how we forget that we should, all of it, we can forget by embracing the beautiful light that we are and using that light to quelch wars. We can go through and do away with this concept of war by enforcing light. Now, this is a hard one for people, because when I say this, we forget. We have one side in a war. We have the other side in a war. And this side has people that love them, and they think that they're right, because that was their incarnation conditioning to bring forth the broken in them. And we have our side, which is conditioned to believe we're correct and we're right. And the conflict is found in the division, okay? So it's called out by heads of state, it's called out by generals, it's called out by even a corporal to a private. And what we have forgotten is that each one of those beings are light beings, just like us. and they are looking to heal. So instead of jumping into the fray and saying, you're wrong, you're bad, this isn't wrong, right? Understand that it's all there for the healing aspect. And if we send the light to the situation, as much light as we can muster, because obviously I'm not going to pick up a gun. I mean, I don't run that fast. I just don't, not anymore. And they don't let bicycles or cars on the playing field. Tanks, maybe. But I can't, my tool is light and love. That's my tool to fight this war, to fight any conflict, light and love. Because nobody can fight if they're being inundated with love. They just can't. They can get angry, but they start to heal, because what you're doing is you're using that level of protection, and you are empowering your spiritual beingness to come out and radiate higher consciousness. Now, we all know that there are ETs out there. I mean, you'd really be silly if you didn't, right? I mean, come on. We're the chosen ones out of an entire universe to be the only sentient beings. Please, crystals are sentient beings. I believe in animus. I believe everything has life to it. I have a tree outside my center. Her name is Lorelei, and she is love and heart. And we have to lay down our tools of fear and pick up our tools of light. We need to ask the earth, please heal us. Let us vibrate, putting our hands on the earth and say, we're sending love and light to the areas of conflict throughout the world. Because we're not talking just one area. There is so much conflict here in America that we all have a lot to do just putting our hands on earth to heal the conflicts in America. We don't want to let them win. We are not going to let the forces that be, the 1% of the 1%, we don't want them to win. They don't get to win. They're not winning, because this is not a game. This is our spiritual beingness. So it's not a competition either, because I will ascend and not have to come back to earth eventually, and they won't have me to play with. So if they don't have me to play with, who are they going to play with? If you take your toys and you go home, I don't care what kind of conflict you're in, take your toys, go home, who are they going to fight with? They have nothing to fight with them about. It's over. It's done. It's done. They can't fight. And so they turn on each other. Oh, well. And hopefully, within that, if we walk away and we feel light and love throughout this entire planet, and the only ones that are still playing with what we would call the Darth Vader dark side are the ones that are creating it to begin with, then they have no other choice but to grow in light or not and keep being in conflict with themselves. They have, it's like playing with yourself. Everybody said you shouldn't do it, but it sure might be fun. And that's what they're thinking. They're thinking that they're playing with us. And I would rather they play with themselves. They can have all the fun they want. I'm out. My light is bright. And I want you to take a page from the self-proclaimed wicked and nice diva. Okay? Because I'm not being not nice, but I am being wicked. I'm saying you got this. I'm saying you can do this. Every time that somebody comes racing up to you on the side and you know they're going to cut you off, back off. Back off. Don't, maneuver for position. Back off. It's a hard one for me, just saying. I have my ego sometimes. But back off. And once you back off, who wins? Nobody, because you're not playing. And then send that car light. Just love and light. Just love them. And they can't engage. So I refuse to take the stand against anybody. I'm just going to let everybody love themselves. And I'm going to let everybody learn to love their conflict until they don't. And then they can step off the conflict. By choosing that, if I keep choosing a side, I'm enabling the hate, fear, and oppression found on both sides. Because that's what this is about. You wouldn't draw to you somebody that is broken if you didn't have a broken part within you. And it is so silly to enable hate and fear and oppression in myself so that I can hurt another. Isn't it? I mean, it's, much better for me to say, hey, you know what? I'm here. I teach higher levels of metaphysics. I teach it from the very basic, moving out of religion into metaphysics. My book is almost finished. It'll be out there soon. Because if we don't start shifting our consciousness, too many of us are going to come back to this chaos, and I don't want to see that. I'm not going to let anyone dim my light any longer. I will, however, love them as they bring their own light into being. I don't want people to walk away from me going, of course they do. I'm okay with that. I mean, that's their choice. I have no other way to be. I'm not going to chase them down and say, please don't leave me. I'm worth loving. Because until they recognize the love within themselves, nothing that I say or do is going to help them on any level. It's like we have to choose to be neutral. We have to choose to stop. It's so silly when we don't stop and we create the chaos. It makes us sick. It inflames our body with inflammation. We eat crappy food. I eat crappy food anyway, but that's because I need a nanny. I need a nanny. Because I'm doing a lot of things right now. And, I'm just casually eating as I go by, which I need to stop. But we all do different things that are not to our highest and best interest. So I'm not going to condemn myself for it. I'm not going to be in opposition to myself. I'm just going to go with the flow. So if we choose to become neutral, we choose not to think someone is out to get us. If we understand that people are not out to get us, then we don't take it personal. And we don't have to make up little remarks or make little... Have you ever watched Facebook? It cracks me up. I was like, wow, they're airing their dirty laundry out there. Wow. And you can tell that they're telling everybody about somebody, and nobody knows quite who they're talking about, except they're getting their point across to the person that they're really angry at. I remember my long-term relationship that I recently let go of a couple of years ago. It's not recent anymore. We broke up, and he dated this woman who did not like redheads. It was obvious by every post that she made that she made in areas she knew I would see the posts, like in groups that we were all mutually in. I just left the group. It's like, I don't care. Don't care. But it's like she had to let me know, I have your man. I have him. He's my man now. Ironically, he came crawling back to me saying, wow, I'm really sorry. She's kind of crazy and I want you back. And I had some more brokenness to heal. So I went back, healed the brokenness, and now I love him for healing that brokenness, but we don't have to be together. But that's the conflict that people see. They want to let you know that they know what you did to them. And they're going to be mean and they're going to tell it to the world. And it's like, oh my God, how exhausting is that? Why not just love what they taught you, what they did for you, and how they showed up for you? And that's what we need to do. We need to start looking at this. We all have the same light within. All of us have that very same light. And it's the brokenness that lowers our vibration. And it makes us murderers, rapists, abusers, victims, gossips, and people of greed, envy, and deceit. But they still have the light within. It's just vibrating at a lower frequency. So a murderer can ascend in consciousness just as quickly as a saint. Do you know how many people incarnated that had the Christ consciousness and they lost it because they got caught up in ego? And that's what we're really talking about, isn't it? It's about ego. It's I'm right, you're wrong, it's silly for us to do this because we don't have that ability to stop that flow until we choose to. Until we are so broken, until we face our own crap that was done, and you can't blame, I watch this too. Oh, my boomer parents did this to me. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm a survivor. I just saw somebody who said, I'm a Gen Xer. I'm tough. I had to crawl under the desk and put my hands over my head because of nuclear war. And I'm laughing going, you were born in 1969. Nobody was climbing under desks because the threat of nuclear war, the fear of it, had left in the 50s. That's when that was. That was the 50s. But we do have a real issue now, don't we? We have children going through drills because they have to learn how to survive a shooter in their school. Now, that's probably more realistic to hide from the nuclear war, but we want to make ourselves look like the wounded victim. I have to hide. I had to hide nuclear war. Oh my God. And yet our children, our grandchildren, but we're okay with that. We're okay. There are responsible gun owners out there, absolutely. Absolutely. But you don't need an AK-57 to go hunting unless you're hunting humans. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. I agree, Harold. I agree. I'm not always on the alert when ego stirs either. Sometimes my ego goes, oh, my hair, it looks so bad. I must doll it up. Somebody might see me. And then it goes down from there. That's just the beginning of ego, and then it goes down from there. But yeah, especially when we hit that conflict button, our ego goes, I'm going to win. Now, I'm a very competitive person when I play games. And my family goes, you cheat, because I play Skippo with them. And I'm like, I don't cheat. But I am competitive, so I will play. I will maneuver. I will make sure I am well laid out with my cards so I can, and I win. Playing spoons too, I can do that too. So yeah, it is. It's hard that we have to recognize that, those people that struggle and we lower our vibration and make ourselves victims of gossip and greed and envy and deceit. When somebody calls us out on it, or when they proselytize that they are so cool, they're so wonderful. I mean, Hell, I sit up here on YouTube and I love doing the YouTubes. It took me a long time to do it. But I figured, you know what? The pandemic took care of me even being hesitant to get out there and speak. But, I became a minister and I gave sermons and I know my stuff. And I'm tired of hearing stuff. I heard somebody say it one time, just the other day, that an old soul is not worthy. They're tired and they're bitter and they're angry. And a young soul, they're new and they're vibrant and they're alive. And I'm laughing because they got this completely wrong. Guess what? Boom, creation happened. Big bang, boom. And it's a whole thing. When you read my book, you'll understand. But creation happened, okay? And it looks something like this out here where we went out into the universe. We got created all at the same time. It's what you do with the information. Old souls are funny too. They're just not funny on the same level. We don't think it's funny to put somebody down. No, we don't think it's funny to hurt somebody by running them over. It's not funny. We don't think it's funny to take guns and shoot each other. It's not funny. So, when somebody calls you out or proselytizes their purity and tells you you're evil and they're trying to fix their brokenness, so just back up. Just back up and let them have it. Who cares? Do they pay your rent? Do they put food on your table? Have a ring on your finger? Who cares what anybody says? People have talked about me. Some of the best people in the world have bad-mouthed me and all the way down. Nag, 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 nag. My own family has done it. And I am fine with it because you know what? I'm doing something right. If you're pissed off about what I'm doing, that's the old saying, isn't it? If they're talking about you, they're leaving somebody else alone. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, it's not going to affect my vibration because my vibration is high enough. I think I can take the hits. And we do have to remind ourselves constantly of our brokenness, and we have to constantly fix that. That's what raising our levels of awareness and consciousness is all about, is fixing our own brokenness. And one way to understand it is that we have our metaphysical beingness called them in to help us heal. I certainly didn't ask. My conscious mind did not go, oh, well, I want Gertrude to come over and talk really bad about me and tell all my secrets and stab me in the back a few times. And, oh, I want, the next person that I get romantically involved with to just move in and live off of me. I mean, why not? I mean, I've already done that. I know what that feels like. So, why not? I don't want my lover to cheat. My conscious mind is not saying this, but your conscious mind creates the fear that it's going to happen, so it creates it again, because you're consciously creating it through your fears. Okay? So what we have to do is understand that our conscious mind creates with thought and energy so that the metaphysical being, our higher self, could heal. That's our goal. This is our whole program here. And we show up where we need to show up to do what we need to do. And we need to heal, then let it go so that we can start resonating on a higher frequency and draw people in of higher frequency. Wow, wouldn't it be really cool if we created in our conscious mind having enough, being enough, seeing enough, learning enough? Wouldn't that be awesome? That everything was enough. I mean, do I need $100 million? What would I do with $100 million? I'd probably give most of it away, because what am I going to do with $100 million? Now, as long as I have my bills paid, my house is in good repair, my family is healthy, and I'm making the center flourish, I have enough. And that takes enough money. But the point is that I can consciously see that. I can consciously create that. There's a really good book. His name is Aidan Watcher, and he wrote 3 books that kind of go together. First one is 6 Ways. 6 Ways really kind of tells you how magic works and how to do this. And the next one is Weaving Fate. And Weaving Fate is about writing your future as though it already happened. Okay? And when you start looking at that, you automatically start going, wow, I'm consciously creating. So you can take a journal and do the same thing. It's not the same, it's different, but you'd have to read the books to understand. But if you were writing your story right now, would you write down, I'm going to go out and get a job and they're going to fire me. I'm going to lose my home. My love of my life is going to kick me to the curb and I'm going to get cancer and die. Is that the story you would write? Because, ew, no. We're going to write that everything is beautiful. It's a spring day outside because I love spring. Don't like snow. I do like snow as long as I don't have to get out and clean the car and shovel. Love snow. It's pretty. I love watching it fall. But in my mind, it's a spring day and it is gorgeous. And I have friends and family surrounding me. Yes, 6 Ways. Aidan Watcher, AIDANWATCHER. He teaches you in 6 ways about magic and how this works. And the next book, Weaving Fate, is the one that teaches you how to create the journal and build the energy. So when we do this, we're understanding that we're consciously creating. Now, if you don't have time to sit down and write in your journal, then you're just kind of flipping a coin to what your thoughts are thinking. But if you write in your journal, you're going to write away wars. You don't want to see wars. We don't have to have this. This doesn't have to happen. Do you know that there was a bunch of psychics and healers in California that stopped the earth changes back in the 60s and 70s? Yeah. They consciously stopped it. These are the things that we can do as light workers. We can consciously shift. Put your hands on the ground. Know that when you write in your book that you are writing for the ancient ones to come in and empower you, to give you love so that you can send it out to the universe. We have that ability and we have those amazing opportunities. We just don't think so. So knowing all of this, that on a higher frequency, metaphysically you'll heal, emotionally and physically. And what I've done, you too can do. Isn't that what Jesus says? Jesus said, these things you too shall do. Well, I don't care if I'm not getting in a conversation with people about whether or not Jesus was a real person or not. That's a personal decision on that conversation. But know that he was this representative of the embodiment of the Christ consciousness. And when those words are true, these things we too shall all do. So we can either make it rockin' for ourselves with good music, good friends, love, light, laughter, joy, peace, and harmony, or we can get sucked down the duality tube of the 3D misery ship of, sickness, illness, disease, curses, malfunctions, and dysfunctions. Blah. Who wants that? No little 5-year-old I've ever seen says, I want to grow up and I want to murder people. Something had to happen to break that child. And that child is still within that murderer. And yes, there is that part of us that I'm going to say, a lot of people go, you're victim blaming. I'm not victim blaming. I'm trying to tell you that you can consciously change your life, that those things happened to a then person, not a now person. You don't ever have to have that happen to you ever again. You can step out of that consciousness and into the light. We can work our paths so that our objective is to own our destiny and grow from our experiences. These are the things that we too shall all do. It's just, when do you want to do it? Next year or now? Do now. Please do now. Because I would love to let my light meet your light and grow and flourish and change the world. If you are still fighting and in conflict, the best way you can do, if you ever find this, is just take a deep breath, breathe into very deeply, go to the heart center and say, is it really worth it? Let it go. Let the love emanate from you. We just don't want to repeat it. Quit allowing media, politicians, religious dogma create division in your life. Quit allowing them to instill fear. Fight back with white light, love, truth in your own inner knowing. Those are the things that I have to say to you today. I hope some of this resonated with you. I hope that you're letting go of your opinions, because they all come from fear. Unless the opinions are, hey, I can change the world. I like that opinion. So send love and light to all corners of the world today, folks. Remember, peace is our objective. Remember, my being a 22 doesn't make me any more special than you. It makes me one person that chose that vibration to incarnate to, so that maybe I could shift consciousness for other people, because that's my goal. My heart to all ears. Harold, thank you for coming on and interacting with me. I really enjoyed it. Hope you come in and visit the center soon. And we got some really awesome classes I'm going to be doing. I want everybody to know we're going to be doing a really great live coming up. I'm not sure when. I've got to schedule it with her. But Susan Zumo is a beautiful higher being of light, and she did an amazing workshop this weekend. Susan, if you see this, thank you. Many changing the world one person at a time if we have to. But she'll be doing another workshop that is very powerful. If there's enough of you out there that would like to take her workshop, she'll do it on Zoom. Yes, it's just equally as powerful, but she does what is called soul patterning harmonics. This is something that she has been, her team, her higher team has brought in for her to do, and raising of consciousness. So from my heart to all yours, bye. Enjoy your day. Thanks, Harold.